I'd like to thank the grace of heaven, the virtues of the masters, and the compassion and mercy of the grand predecessors, senior transmitters, lecturers, temple masters, and everyone for giving me the opportunity today to learn to continue to lead the talk on Tao Te Ching chapter 80. Okay, Tao Te Ching chapter 80. Do not move. Not to move around or not to migrate or not migrate. Okay. All right. So we left off. Okay. Hold on. I'm hearing it. Okay. We left off at top of page 6, near the top of page 6. Okay. We just finished section 2. All right. Section 2. Okay. Section 2. If you want to take a look at the summary, overview. Okay, so we finished the first 7 phrases here. Okay, so now we're going to finish the next 7. Okay, the second half. All right, so section 3 and section 4. So the section 3 and 4. This is a very important section here. All right, so let's continue. I have a lot of ground to cover. Okay, so let's start here. Okay, so section 3, all right? Okay, so let the people return to tying knots and using them, savor their food, admire their clothes, content in their homes, happy in their customs. Okay, now this very first line, first line, okay, tying ropes. Well, what's tying ropes? Tying ropes is in the ancient times, way back, okay, before the invention of writing, okay, people were tying knots as a way of keeping record. Okay, this is not just true in Asia; it's true in Africa, in South America, okay, in Central America, South America. All right, okay, and the tying of the knot, each knot represents it's like a reminder for a task. So people, let's say they have something to do. So they have a task that they would tie a knot. And then once the task is completed, then we'll untie the knot. Okay. Okay. So that's what the historical background of tying knots means. Okay. Now, Lao Tzu is not saying that that people should return, or society should return to the practice of tying knots instead of the written language. He's not saying that, okay? He does not mean that people should abandon cultural, material, scientific advances material to a primitive life. Okay, Laos is not right. It's not advocating that. Rather, he's saying that the key is you can keep all these advances, material advances, scientific advances, cultural, whatever advances, but don't become slaves to the advances or knowledge. Okay, so that's where the detail will be in the next 4 phrases. Okay, in these 4 phrases right here. Okay, the following 4 phrases. All right. Okay. All right. So generally, another general meaning is that tying knots with ropes, though, it's also a metaphor for something, okay? And what's a metaphor for? It's metaphor for simple, fast, and convenient solutions to everyday problems, okay? To problems that people face every day. So let people return to using simple, uncomplicated solutions so they can keep their lives as simple as possible. That's what another way Lao Tzu is implying, okay? So we accomplish difficult tasks by reducing complexity and through the simple, small tasks, right? That's in chapter 63, all right? We see that in chapter 63, all right? Okay, now, there's another metaphor for tying knots, and that is for being connected to the Tao in everyday living. That is to live in accordance to the Tao, being content in a life of simplicity without contention and excess, living in harmony and moderation. Okay, so that's another metaphor for tying knot. That means we're aligning ourselves with the Tao. Okay, that's another. So that's kind of external, right? Now there's an internal aspect too. Okay, and that is we need to bind. That's to tie the knot, to bind or bond ourselves with our Buddha nature. That is to return to our pure and simple nature, which is a state of our true nature or original state of our Buddha nature. So that's another hint, another metaphor. It's more on the internal side, the intangible side. Then there's a meta level metaphor for tying knots. That's the invisible and intangible golden link between us and the Tao. That basically means that there's some kind of invisible link or connection between us, humans, sentient beings, and the Tao. That's because we have that Buddha nature, right? So therefore, that's that connection. But it's it's invisible, right? It's intangible. Okay, so that's the meta level. All right, now let's go to the second half of this, which is those 4 phrases: savor their food, admire their clothes, content in their homes, and happy in their customs. Let's see. Okay, so now the first phrase, first 3 words, that's this. Okay, savor the food. Okay, now this food, this word food, I mean, literally means food. Okay, but there's a metaphorical meaning behind that. Okay, and that's right here. Okay, so if you understand that, it means spiritual sustenance besides actual food that we eat. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's that. And then for the second phrase, which is admire their clothes. Clothes also has a meta level meaning. That means it's something that's natural, non-contrived, non-conditioned, and selfless thoughts, words, and actions. Okay, that's because that's something. It's a display. It's to display, right? When you wear clothes, it's displayed, right? Right? Okay, so anyway, okay, so that's another metaphor. Then the third phrase, happy or content in their homes. So this word literally means home. Yeah, house, abode, residence, whatever. Okay, but in a meta level, it means to abide in the Tao, to be with the Tao. Okay, all right. So that's what it means. All right, and then su, I think it's pronounced su, right? That means this is happy in their customs. Yeah, so this literally dictionary meaning means customs, or it means common, something that's common, ordinary, popular, secular, convention, custom. Okay, we in this context is customs. Okay, but there's a meta level meaning. That's the natural, non-contrived, non-conditioned, harmonious principles of the Tao. Okay, all right. Okay, so if you understand, once you understand the meta meaning, then we'll see the different levels of meaning. Okay, so the first phrase is savor their food. Okay, so at the tangible level, that's tangible, food does not have to be extravagant to be delicious and nutritious, right? I mean, it doesn't, right? Rich foods can be unhealthy in many, and on the other hand, flip side, rich foods can be unhealthy in many ways and lead to many health issues, while simple foods are more healthy, right? I mean, right? If you eat a lot of rich foods like high in cholesterol, high in fat, whatever, okay, high in, fat, whatever, whatever, cholesterol, fat, oil, all that, right? They're rich. I mean, they're very rich, you can say very tasty, right? But it could be unhealthy, all right? All right, okay. While simple foods, maybe, simple, maybe even bland foods could be more healthy. So although the food is not lavish or sumptuous, but people still are happy eating them. Okay, so that's the very savor their foods. That's where, remember, we're talking about this ideal place, ideal land, right? Where, right, the small country, few people, right? Where life is very simple, right? Life is simple, okay? That's what a few people means, okay? So, people are happy in eating simple foods. That's okay, all right? So, all right, even though the food may not be super tasty, lavish, extravagant, okay, that's at the tangible kingdom level, you can say, external. On the personal level, okay, we should be willing to let our Buddha nature, that's the simplicity of the nameness, okay, nurture our minds and lives. That means to be in accordance with our eternal true nature and to value the essence of the Tao, the nourishing mother. Remember the nourishing mother chapter? That's another metaphor for the Tao, okay? So recall and value the nourishing mother. That's from chapter 20, all right, okay? So that's the personal level. Then there's a meta level. That means all living things, humans, animals, plants, okay, willingly accept what the Tao produces and nourishes, but we're not dominated by it. Okay, that's the meta level. That's savor their food. Okay, savor their food. All right, so that means we savor what the Tao produces but we're not dominated by the Tao. Okay, so that's all right. So that's from Mystic Virtue, chapter 10. All right, and chapter 51. All right, okay. Now the second phrase, admire their clothes. Okay, so second phrase, admire their clothes. All right, so here it is. It's at the tangible level. Clothes do not need to be elaborate, right? Fancy, elaborate looking, in order to be comfortable and presentable, right? It doesn't have to be, right? And clothes do not need to be expensive to look good and be durable, right? I mean, you don't have to buy, name brands or designer name brands, in order to have, clothes look good or to last, right? I mean, generally the quality should be better with the name brands, with a hefty premium and price. But there could be cheap clothes, or not so expensive clothes, not name brands that could also look good, look very nice, and also could last, right? So clothes do not need to be colorful or attract attention to look good also, right? Okay, so that's the tangible level, to admire their clothes. That's what it means, okay? Because remember, they're living a life of simplicity, right? And humility, all right? At the personal level, here's where the humility comes in. That's where we readily manifest humility and hold simplicity in our thoughts, words, and conducts by reducing selfishness and desires, right? From chapter 19, show plainness, hold simplicity, reduce selfishness, decrease desires, okay? Chapter 19. At the meta level, we readily admire. Now, I should put in parentheses that admire in the sense that we have a sense of awe and respect that the Tao manifests everything naturally without contrivance, without taking credit or self-display, and without desires. So that's something that we can admire, that with a sense of awe, say, wow, how can the Tao, the Tao can produce everything, do everything, nourish everything, manifest everything, and yet, it does that naturally, spontaneously, without contrivance, without an agenda, without taking credit, right? Unlike humans, right? So that's a sense of awe and respect. So we admire that, right? So we have an admiration for this Tao, okay? So that's on chapter 34, achieve greatness, all right? Something like that, all right? Okay, sections 1 to 3, all right? Okay, all right, let's go to the third phrase, which is content in their homes. Okay, so what does that mean? So what it means is that at the tangible level, the simplicity, that the life of simplicity also applies to living spaces and homes. Okay, so the homes, living spaces, are simply furnished without clutter and very safe to live in. So that's very very plain, very basic. Okay, it has all the basics. Okay, that's enough, right? Okay, to provide a space for living and also to be safe in. Okay. All right, now then we have the personal level, okay, which is we are content to cultivate the Tao in the family, okay, in the home, and its virtue shall be abundant, right? That's chapter 54. Cultivate the family, its virtue shall be abundant, right? Okay, chapter 54. At the meta level, since the Tao is the source of everything, right? It's the nourishing mother, right? Okay, so it is the essence of everything. So the Tao is really our eternal true home, quote unquote, and to reside, quote unquote, or abide and live in accordance with Tao is lasting contentment. Okay, that's chapter 46, knowing contentment. Okay, all right. So that's the okay. So at the last phrase, the fourth phrase is happy in their customs. Okay, so at the tangible level, it just means that social customs should be kept simple. That is, simple. Simplicity does not imply a lack of respect. Sincere customs, proprieties, or habits do not have to be complex, elaborate, or showy, right? Although simple people are happy with their social customs and habits. Although their customs, etiquette, or proprieties and habits are simple, but they're still respectful and sincere. So that's happy in their customs. Okay, so that's the very basic level. You can say, tangible, external. Okay, there's a personal level, which is that for the person of the Tao, a great person, that's like a great person. There's no amount of courteous expressions or proper form in following social protocols, such as customs, proprieties, and habits, that can compare to the simple sincerity direct from the heart. So we have happiness and joy in following simplicity, sincerity, and abiding in substance. Okay, so that's the key. So even though the customs, the proprieties, the habits, if you will, etc., could be simple, not that elaborate. Okay, but that's all external. That's showing, right? You're displaying, right? Those customs, proprieties, or whatever. But on a personal level, if we are a Tao cultivator or a person of the Tao, what's more important, what gives the protocol or the customs or the proprieties or habits meaning, substance, is it has to be sincere from within one's heart. There has to be sincerity, simplicity. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, so chapter 38, therefore the great person abides in substance and does not dwell on the thin shell. Thin shell means those showy proprieties, etc. Okay, all right, so that's chapter 38. At the meta level, this is very interesting, is the principles of the Tao permeates all phenomena and the entire cosmos, and it's the way of nature, right? The natural principles, laws, etc. Okay, and everything will naturally follow of their own accord in harmony and equilibrium. So therefore, people are also happy and cheerful, joyful in following the Tao, that is to live in harmony with heaven and earth, or in accordance to the Tao. That's chapter 32, section 2. Okay. All right, so here's the deeper meaning of, let's see, there's external, internal. Okay, good. All right, deeper meaning of understanding tying the knots and using them. So on the external level means being content, living a life of simplicity without contention and excess. On the personal or internal level is to bind ourselves or be aligned or in accordance with our Buddha nature without any restraints, unconditionally, spontaneously, and naturally, while manifesting, that's our reflecting or using its virtues in our daily lives, right? Recall chapter 19, in sagacity, abandon knowledge, the people benefit 100 times. Okay, that's chapter 19. Then there's on the higher understanding level is return to tying knots is to acknowledge and return to our Buddha nature. That's similar to the Analects, right? Book 1 on learning, chapter 1. Is it not delightful to have friends coming from distant quarters? Friends here means our Buddha nature. We discover our Buddha nature. Okay, we return to our Buddha nature. All right. Okay, here's the meta level. There's a meta level. Okay, let's see where, let's do it right here. Okay, tying the best knot is where we are bound. Is it bound? Yeah, B-O-U-N-D, bound or at one with our Buddha nature, which is formless and thus cannot be untied. Okay, because if it's something what's a formless knot? Then the knot can't be untied because it's formless, right? Okay, so the invisible and intangible golden link between us and the Tao, right? So that's the good knot, needs no rope and yet cannot be untied. That's chapter 27. All right, externally, here's what it is. Externally, what are the 4 aspects of being content in a life of simplicity? Remember, this is section 3, right? We're talking about living a life of simplicity. Okay, section 3 is basic. The main theme, remember, is contentment prevails in the ideal land, right? Living a life of simplicity. Okay, that's the external level. All right, and internal level is the unbreakable bond between us and the Buddha nature. That's what that meta level is. Okay, all right. Okay, so now at the external level, here's what it is. Okay, external level. All right. Okay, the 4 aspects of being content in life simplicity. 1, delicious and nutritious food need not be extravagant. That's to savor their food, right? 2, comfortable and good-looking clothes need not be elaborate or gaudy, showy. Okay, that's admire their clothes. Comfortable and safe homes are simply furnished and uncluttered. That's content in their homes. 4, respectful, sincere, and joyful customs, proprieties, or habits need not be complex, elaborate, or showy. Simplicity is still the best way to maintain moderation. That's to happy in their customs. Okay, so that's the external side. Okay, or you can say at the kingdom level. Okay, then there's a general side too, a general way of saying. Okay, so generally, a general implication is that tying a knot is a metaphor for manifesting simplicity in every aspect of life and embracing the original, most natural state while being free from the influences of the material world. So that's a little bit more higher level. Okay, so then there are 3 levels each. Okay, to these four things. All right, on the external. Okay, so specific is that our bond with our Buddha nature between us and Tao cannot be broken, and we naturally manifest all the Tao-like virtues. That's to reflect and use the Tao. All right, and then internally is by returning to the simplicity of the nameless, we are, quote, at one, unquote, with our Buddha nature and congruent with the Tao. All right, at the personal level, okay, here it is. Sorry. At the personal level, okay, contentment prevails in a life of humility and simplicity with respect to these 4, okay, to the 4 things, all right, to the 4. First is value the essence of Tao and its spiritual nourishment. That's delicious, nutritious, and simple foods are enjoyable, right? This is the personal versus the tangible, the external, all right, okay. The second one is manifest humility and hold simplicity in our thoughts, words, and conducts by reducing selfishness and desires. That's simple and elegant clothes need not be elaborate or garish. Okay. The third one is that's content in their homes, right? Okay. Content to cultivate the Tao in the family and its virtue shall be abundant. That's comfortable and safe homes are okay. That's the counterpart, okay, or the external. Okay, then the fourth one is the great person, or the Tao, the person, the you can say Tao cultivator, really advanced Tao cultivator, does not abide inside the veneer. Veneer is the superficialness. Veneer is the external surface, right? It's like a cover, a facade of superficial fealty, that's loyalty, faith or sincerity, and etiquette or propriety. Okay, rather, the great person, the advanced Tao cultivator, reside within the Tao essence. Okay, so although simple, they're happy with their social customs and habits that are honest, sincere, respectful. That's the external aspect. Okay, all right. So now comes the meta level. The meta level. Okay, so we talked about the personal level. Now there's a meta level. Okay, which is you can say macro. Okay, so you can say this is micro. Personal is one person, right? Or individual. It's micro. And then at the macro level, the Tao, what's the Tao? The Tao, number 1, produces, nurtures, and nourishes myriad things continuously, which all living things willingly accept, because that's the nourishing mother. The Tao acts, but does not flaunt, okay? Achieves everything naturally, without contrivance, without taking credit, and without desires, which we readily admire, or we admire with a sense of awe and respect, okay, for the Tao. Then the Tao is the source of everything. It is the essence of everything. And to abide in it, the true home, is lasting contentment. That's content in their homes. And the last, fourth one, the Tao permeates the cosmos, right? Or all, space-time, if you will, where everything is in accord, that's being in harmony and equilibrium with the principles of nature, which we are happy and cheerfully follow, or we are aligned with, okay? All right, so let's go to the summary of this section. Let's go to Appendix B. Okay, here's Appendix B. Okay, so on the left column, I have the text, right? for section 2, which is right here. It is right. Let the people return to timeless, savor their food, admire their clothes, content in their homes, and happy. Okay, now so here's the 3 levels we talked. I just went through the tangible level, the intangible level, and the meta level. Okay, so the tangible level for these is that let the people let the people return to is to being content in a life of simplicity without contention and excess, living in harmony and moderation. All right. Then on the intangible level, we need to bind ourselves with and return to our Buddha nature. And then at the meta level, okay, it's the invisible and intangible golden link between us and the Tao. Okay, that's the meta level. That's the macro level, grand level. Okay, you can say intangible is more the personal level. Okay, all right. So then savor the foods. Savor the food. What does that mean? At the tangible level, food does not have to be what? Extravagant to be delicious and nutritious. So people are happy, right? We're still, because we're living in a simple life, right? Simple simplicity, life of simplicity. And also at the intangible level, we are willing to let our Buddha nature nurture our minds and lives. We value the essence of the Tao, the nourishing mother, right? And then at the meta level, all living things willingly accept what the Tao produces and nourishes, but are not dominated by it. That's the macro level. Okay. Then admire their clothes. The tangible level is what? Its clothes do not need to be elaborate or gaudy in order to be comfortable, present, or look good. And at the intangible level, we readily manifest humility and hold simplicity in our thoughts, words, and conducts by reducing selfishness and desire. And at the meta level, it means we readily admire with a sense of awe and respect that the Tao manifests everything naturally, without contrivance, without taking credit, without self-display, without desires or emotions. Okay, content in their homes, tangible level, comfortable and safe homes are simply furnished, uncluttered. Okay, that's pretty simplistic. Okay, pretty straightforward. At the intangible, it's content to live the Tao, to cultivate the Tao in the family, and its virtue shall be in abundant. All right. And then at the meta level is the Tao is the source of everything. So it is the essence of everything. And to abide in it, the true home, is lasting contentment. That's where we get you can say eternal contentment, okay, lasting contentment. Okay, happy in their customs, tangible. Although simple, they are happy with their customs and habits that are honest, sincere, and respectful. Okay, that's what the people, that's the people, right? We're happy in their customs. Okay, at the intangible level, okay, or personal, you can say we have happiness and joy in following simplicity, sincerity, and abiding in substance. And then at the meta level, it's the Tao permeates the cosmos, where everything is in accord with the principles of nature, which happily and charity. Okay, so that's the summary. All right. Okay, so let's go to. All right, so let's go to the section 4 now. We're in section 4. Halfway. Section 4. Okay. Okay. The first 2 phrases of section 4. There are 4 phrases. So it says neighboring kingdoms or countries see one another, hear the sounds of roosters and dogs from one another. Okay. So what does that mean? Okay. So there's a metaphor for roosters and dogs, by the way. Okay, all right. So let's look at basic meaning of the first phrase. Okay, at the kingdom level, external level, countries do not isolate from each other. So they're like good neighbors within visual range of one another. That's to see one another. So they're next to each other. They're like good neighbors, okay? Neighboring countries, all right? So that's at the very specific kingdom level, external level, okay? Or very general level. Now, another a more specific understanding of this first phrase, neighboring can see one another, is that the land of utopia is not utopia, Utopan, right? That's land of, or the ideal land. You can say ideal land, ideal land. It's not a remote, hidden, or inaccessible place. Unlike Shangri-La. Everybody heard of Shangri-La? Shangri-La. I mean, Chinese is Shangri-La. That's the direct phonetic translation. But Shangri-La, right? Anybody heard of that? There was a book written about it. It's like over 100 years ago, I believe. And there's a movie made about it. It's supposed to be some exotic, utopia. I think in Tibet, someplace in the Himalayas. Okay, in Himalaya. Okay, but it's isolated. So I guess So what Lao Tzu is saying is that this ideal place, ideal land, this ideal land of peace, tranquility, safe, security, etc., it's not isolated. It has neighbors. It has neighboring countries. Okay. So they're not isolated, okay? That's very important. So that's a metaphor for something else too. But anyway, so it's a metaphor for this. It's basically at the human level or personal level, human level, or the micro level. This applies to people as well. Everybody can see and help one another, just like good neighbors, okay? So just like in Tao cultivation, we don't go out into the wilderness, in a cave, in the mountains someplace, and cultivate in solitude or right, in isolation, right? We don't do that. Okay, so that's why. All right. Okay, so that's why. All right. Okay. That would be the path of the arhats. Okay, that's not the path of the bodhisattvas. Then at the personal level, a little bit, yeah, you can say micro. The kingdom is a metaphor for our own life, for your own life. So you live your life amongst others, where your life is close to other people's lives, where your life interacts with other lives, where you help each other in your daily life. Okay, so that's what the neighboring countries see one another. And okay, here that's just this first phrase. Okay, we haven't gone to the roosters and dogs yet. Okay, now let's come to the roosters and the dogs. Okay, so all right, so the basic meaning is that at the kingdom level, not only is the country within visual range of each other, right? Remember, they see one another, right? That's the first phrase, see one another, right? See one another, okay? Not only are they within visual range, okay, but also within hearing range, of each other. That's the sounds of roosters and dogs can be mutually heard, okay? Sometimes, we're basically very close to each other, like a stone's throw away, that's the saying, right? Okay, all right. So as neighboring countries, people can greet each other, talk, and interact socially in the form of cultural, education, trade exchanges, relationships, etc., right? So that's at the country to country level, right? At the human level, when neighbors are not too far apart from each other, right? Within visual range and hearing range, they can greet, chat, and interact socially, right? So that's how in a ideal land of peace and tranquility, this is what people will be doing, right? It's very normal, very natural, okay? At the personal neighbor, it's more personal, internal. As good neighbors within hearing distance of each other, people can help one another in times of need, right? So we're good neighbors, right? Good, friendly neighbors. Okay, so that's being, okay, so that's hear the sounds of roosters and dogs from one another. Okay, so that's the very basic level, kingdom level, human level, personal level. Okay, but then there's a specific, deeper understanding of what rooster, what rooster means. Okay, 2 levels. Specific means to be awakened and aware of our Buddha nature, our eternal true self. That's what a rooster, right? What does a rooster do when it's dawn? They crow, right? They crow, right? They wake you up, right? They wake us up. So that means we have to be awakened and be aware of our Buddha nature. Okay, that's what we'll be awakened to. Not awakened to the sun, the dawn, the rising sun. No. I mean that's the physical level, but this is more metaphorical. Then there's a general level. It's to be awakened and be aware of the Tao. We see the Tao manifestations. The very fact that the sun, rises each morning and descends each night is a manifestation of the Tao, or the workings, more specifically, the workings or the functions of the of the Tao principles. So that's so we have, on the general level, to be awake and aware that there is something called the Tao. Okay, all right, that's underlying everything. All right, okay. Same thing with the dog. Now this is an ancient, this is an old term for dog. Okay, the modern usage, they don't use this anymore. I mean, rare. It's very rare. Okay, so it's pronounced Chen. Okay, Chen. Yeah, Chen. I think it's Chen. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So the specific. What does a dog? People who own pets, who have dogs, right? Who have dogs. I mean, yeah, dogs are nice pets and everything. They're fun and fluffy and everything. But also dogs has a functional purpose. That's that they're working dogs and guard dogs. Right here, we're talking about guard dogs. Okay. So specific is the specific meaning is this, is that to be aware of and be vigilant or be on guard against being incongruent or not conforming to our Buddha nature, not to our true self. Okay, so we have to be aware, cognizant, and be on the lookout like a dog, be on guard against deviating from our Buddha nature, right? Okay, at the general level, it means to be aware of and vigilant or watchful against deviating from the path of Tao. That's what a dog does, right? A dog is very watchful, right? Guards, right? Guards the home, right? Guards the home, guards its master, right? Okay, all right, okay, all right. So that's the two deeper metaphors for roosters and dogs. Okay, so the implication is this. Am I getting, okay, good. Okay. The implication is this: at a kingdom level, a country that is an ideal place would be governed according to Tao-like principles, where the country does not isolate itself from other countries, but is like a good neighbor to its adjacent countries that's within visual and hearing range, where it interacts socially with their neighboring countries and help them in times of need, right? Friendly countries, neighboring countries will help each other in times of disaster or whatever, natural calamities, et cetera, right? Okay. The personal level, the key point is this: although we live a simple and humble life, we still interact and help others like good neighbors. Okay, so that's personal level, okay, or personal level, human level. Okay. At the meta level, though, we live an awakened life with an awareness of our Buddha nature, while being aware of and vigilant, that is being on guard or watchful against not conforming with our Buddha nature, our true master, in our everyday interactions with other people. We also help other people to become awakened and aware of the Tao. All right. Okay. So that's the meta level. Okay. So that's the meaning behind hear the sounds of roosters and dogs from one another. Okay. All right. So we're at the last two phrases of this chapter, section 4. Okay. Now, here's what it is. Okay. So the people until old age and death do not go back and forth with one another. Now, I just want to, let me point this out. If you look up in the dictionary, okay, especially these two last words, okay, these two last words in the dictionary, if you look it up in the dictionary in modern use, it means do not, well, in this case, it means do not, okay, do not here. Now, this means to socialize, to interact, to connect, okay, to socialize, interact, connect, to see one another, okay, or visit one another. Okay, so this means do not one another, not one another back and forth. Well, literally it means back and forth, but it means to visit, to socialize, to interact. So not interact with one another. Okay, so now in modern usage, this phrase, these 4 words means you don't socialize with one another, or don't interact with one another. So it's basically like you're in isolation. And then this became an idiom. That these 6 words is an idiom. Now it's a modern day idiom. It means that you don't socialize. You don't socialize for your entire life, or you don't interact with each other. Okay, so that's wrong. This is what Lao Tzu does not mean to say that, people throughout their lives should not socialize with them. No, that's contrary to just the previous section. We hear here, right? Neighboring countries see one another, hear one. Okay, all right. So what does it mean? All right, so we have to understand that. Okay, so the basic, let's see. Okay, this just means, okay, this first phrase is, I can skip it all. It's all right over here. It's all right here. It just means people grow old and die. People go to, okay, so that's into our lives and also our thoughts from the beginning to end. Okay, so that means the whole thought. Okay, now here, this is here. This is where the Lao Tzu's intended meaning, okay, of these last words. It means to come and go. Okay, so that's what it means. Go back and forth. Okay, but it's the metaphor for the back and forth. So it does mean back and forth, to go back and forth. Okay, it does mean that. It does mean that, or to have dealings, between each other or something. But the metaphor is back and forth for what? It's a back and forth contention, disputes, debates, arguments. Okay, that's what it means. Okay, so it's an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth mentality, the tit for tat game between people, to have verbal back and forth. That's what Lao Tzu is saying. Okay, so that means what? So if you that's people until basically throughout their lives. Okay, do not what? Contend with one another, or do not have verbal back and forth with one another. Do not have, back and forth contention, right? Or with one another. Okay, so the basic meaning of the second phrase at the tangible level does not mean no visiting or social interaction with one another. That's the modern meaning. Now, why is that? Because if you say it means no visiting or social interaction with that, then this interpretation is contrary to the idea behind people not being far away from one another, within visual and hearing range, seeing and visiting one another, helping and supporting each other and working together. Okay, so that's the previous two phrases, okay, that we just in this section, okay, in this last section. Okay, so the back and forth is the ancient meaning is not about socializing. That's the modern meaning is about socializing, okay, or visiting each other or seeing each other. Okay, it's not about that, but it's about the tit for tat, an eye for an eye, a tooth for tooth mentality, to requite the like for the like, the back and forth attacks, either verbal or non-verbal, of petty people, the bickering or squabbles back and forth people. That's the old meaning. That's what Lao Tzu is saying. All right, so at the eternal level, okay, all our thoughts are in harmony, without contention, without resentment, without contrivance, without ego, without ulterior motives, etc. And they conform to our Buddha nature. That is, our thoughts are Tao-centric. So that's being at one. Hold the oneness of Tao. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about this. Okay, in next paragraph, I think. Next page. Okay. All right. Okay. So the deeper understanding of this, nope, do not go back and forth. There are several levels. Okay, external level is because harmony and peace prevails in a small country. People do not visit trouble on one another, right? They don't give trouble, dish out trouble, right? Okay, between each other, right? Okay, so at the internal level, all right, our thoughts, there's no mental back and forth of contentious thoughts within one's mind. So all our thoughts are not contending, and one's life is in harmony, and the mind is at peace. So, usually not just contentious thoughts, but thought swings, like mood swings, thought swings from one extreme to the next. Okay, that's the back and forth. A lot of times we have those thoughts or feelings, right? Sometimes we would be very, very happy, and then boom, 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 boom. We will have very happy thoughts or joyful thoughts. And then other time, then the next thought, we could be very angry, right? Very angry, very sad, etc. etc. So we have these swings, thought. That's not what Lao Tzu is saying, that our minds should have no back and forth thoughts like those. Okay, so that's the only way that our thoughts, if our thoughts are not that, then we can have peaceful, harmonious thoughts. Okay, or that our mind will be at peace and tranquil. Okay, so at the kingdom level, okay, all right, okay, here it is. Okay, yeah, here it is. All right, okay. All right. Because there is harmony and tranquility in a small country, the people do not have any verbal back and forth with one another. There is no game of tit for tat with one another. There's no contention between the people. Now, this chapter 80 has many similarities and parallels to the ideal of the world of great harmony, right? 礼运道同 from the Book of Rights, okay? Chapter 9, all right? Okay. All right. It has many similarities, or you can say parallel. I don't say, yeah. So in a sense, this chapter 80 is the forerunner or precursor to the world of great harmony ideal found in the Book of Rights. Roughly, the Book of Rights roughly was, well, yeah, we say it was, probably compiled around this time. I mean, that's what some scholars estimate. Okay, but actually, the Book of Rights is basically based on a lot of previous, especially the Zhou dynasty, the early Zhou dynasty, and the dynasty before that, which is I think it's the Shang dynasty, the Shang Zhou dynasty rituals, rites, customs, etc. Okay, though they were recorded during that time, and then I think Confucius, the Book of Rights is one of the Confucian. We can say Confucian, not the 4 books. This is outside the 4 books, but one of the Confucian studies. Okay, part of the group of Confucian. You can say embodies Confucian philosophy and stuff like that. Okay, so the Book of Rights, actually Confucius, there should be a separate topic about that. But anyway, Book of Rights, Confucius edited. He edited it. So he did add something, but he didn't author the whole book. I mean, the whole entire book, because it's very long. I think there are many chapters. I forgot. There's like 40 something chapters. I forgot. Something like that. Anyway, okay. So yeah, I think there are 40 plus chapters, I believe. Let me see. Let me just do a quick check. I believe it is 40 something chapters. It's quite a few. It's Li Ji. It's Li Ji. It's quite a few chapters. Yeah, it's like close to 40. I think 38 or 40. Oh, maybe 49. Okay, anyway, doesn't matter. Was that 20? Okay, doesn't matter. But anyway, it's a lot. Okay, so what Confucius did was he edited that, and he may have, put together the world of great harmony. Okay, but I don't think he authored it. Okay, so basically, you can say it precedes. You can say it roughly simultaneously at the same time the Tao Te Ching was written. Okay, so roughly. Okay, so now I don't want to go too much detail. This should be another topic, but we can just get just a rough idea of the comparison between this chapter and the world of great harmony. Okay, let's take a look here. All right, here it is. All right, so chapter 80. So these columns are here. This is chapter 80, the Tao Te Ching, and then this is the world of great harmony. Okay, the Chinese text and the translation. Okay, and then these are the phrases. Okay, number phrases. So chapter 80 has 14, whereas the world of great harmony has like 20. I mean, more or less. Okay, 20, 21, 22, something like that. Okay, 20, 21, depending on how you split it up. Now, it doesn't go line. They don't match line by line. This does not match. I mean, yes, the first two, the first phrase, in Tao Te Ching in chapter 80, does correspond to the first two, but it also corresponds to the last phrase also. All right. Okay. So, I mean, this is my attempt. I mean, there are different ways of how do you correspond them. I mean, I try to do it by color. I try to initially do it using lines. It gets very complicated, very messy. Okay, so this one would correspond to pretty much this. Okay, and I think, yeah, oops, kind of, shoot, let's enlarge it. Okay, all right, and this would correspond to something like this and something else. I think that, anyway, it's rough. Okay, so one exercise that you can do is see how well they match up to each other, but they pretty much do. It's just that if you really read chapter 80, it's more generic, whereas the world of great harmony is a little bit more specific. Okay, more specific. All right. Okay. So that I don't want to. This should be a separate topic if you want to do a comparative analysis of two. but I don't want to, we don't have time to talk about it, but just get an idea that there is a connection, okay? Okay, you can say between the two, or parallel, okay? All right, between chapter 80. Okay, so at the internal level, okay, all the dots from their beginning to the end are not in contention with another. They're still in harmony, and they're not in extreme. They don't do swings. They don't swing from one end to the other. Okay, and they are harmonious with another. So one's life is peaceful and tranquil. Okay, so what's the ideal life? Let's look at ideal life. Let's go to summary part 2. Okay, what's the ideal life? Remember last week we talked about what's an ideal world, right? That's what section 1 and 2 is about. So now in section 3 and 4, it's talking about remember the life of simplicity and contentment, right? Because that's the ideal life from Lao Tzu's perspective. That is, the ideal life is the simple life. That is, we reduce and minimize rich foods that are bad for you. We reduce and minimize the clutter in your life, both external, internal, tangible, intangible, and aim for the simple and elegant in what we wear, right? Okay, and also the ideal life is to be helpful, like neighbors, good neighbors, but we don't overdo that. We meddle. We do not meddle. We are helpful, but we don't meddle. So that's the middle ground. That's the moderation. Okay, so that's to seek moderation, not too little, not too much. Okay, we seek harmony, common ground, not contention with each other, right? Okay, and then let go of the need to get back at anyone. That is to go back and forth. That's remember the third to the last phrase. Okay, sorry, the last phrase, the last 4 words, to go back and forth, right? It means don't need to get back. We don't want to give trouble to others. So there's no petty squabbles with one another. So we focus on ourselves instead, because living well is the best revenge. Yeah, there are haters out there, or there are doubters, haters, people who are envious of you or who just dislike you. So instead of you get back at them, that's the back and forth. Don't do that. Instead, we focus on succeeding yourself, making, living well, living the best you can be. That's the best revenge. Okay. All right. And then defy your critics and detractors just by being genuinely happy and content. Right. People will get really, really ticked off. They can't get underneath your skin, right? So that's the idea, all right? Now, there's a significance to this chapter, all right? This chapter is very important because, it's not the last chapter, but I would say it's like the first half of the end of the classic, okay? It's the first half, one half, means that because this chapter is actually a synthesis of many concepts and ideas from previous chapters and serves to summarize the second half of this classic, right? So that's the virtue section from chapters 38 to chapter 81, right? Okay. Now it embodies many key concepts of the virtues of the Tao, such as contentment, non-ego, non-attachment, non-contrivance, harmony, non-meddling, non-contention, simplicity, sincerity, selflessness, relinquishment, that's to reduce desires, compassion, unconditional love, conservation, moderation, humility. Now, remember these last 3 are the 3 treasures, okay, from chapter 67, right? 3 treasures, okay, all right, okay. So anyway, all right, then, and also the conclusion of the many concepts from the prior chapters leads to this ideal land of the Tao. Okay, so that on the external level, that's parallels the world of great harmony or mirrors the greater. And on the internal level, it's about the Tao mind. Okay, so that's also an ideal place within you can say the world of great harmony is the external land, ideal land, and the Tao mind is the internal ideal land. Okay, all right. Now, this is one for there's a I have compiled a partial list of all the different concepts, chapters from previous concepts from previous chapters, which link to this chapter. So we can look at Appendix D. I mean, this is just FYI for your information, and this is just a partial list, and especially right here, column F. The chapters linked are all primary. They're secondary. Okay, so I have on chapter 8, chapter, here's the chapter 80 phrases, right? Okay, there are 14 of them, and where and how each section, each phrase, we have connections from concepts, okay, that come from previous chapters. These are the primary. Now, for example, last week we have here, right? Let them have weapons, but then it makes use of them. We say, okay, Lao Tzu advocate people having weapons, okay, but we don't use them, okay. But does not mean that Lao Tzu advocates, using force, right? Because he says you can have weapons, and so that's a you can say secondary connection to the concept of, if you look at chapter 30 and 31, 30 is talking about chapter 30 is contrary to Tao. It's talking about the one who uses the Tao to advise the ruler does not dominate the world with soldiers. Okay, so that's the very first two phrases of chapter 30, and also chapter 31, a strong military, is a tool of misfortune. All things detested. Therefore, those who possess the Tao avoid it. Right. So that's why Lao Tzu, does not advocate using military force to achieve anything. All right. So but that's secondary. Okay. That's a secondary sort. Okay. So, but these are just examples. So a challenge for you to see how well you understand chapter 80, okay, is to see what concepts from previous chapters are connected to. Okay. So you have one chapter 80, and then you connect to many chapters, all right, of the previous chapters. All right, so this is just an example. All right, okay, so we're done here. We're almost done with time. Okay, so let's go back to let's go, where are we? Okay, we're near the end. We're very close to the end now. Okay, let's go to, I think, all right, okay, so we stop here. Yep, chapter. Okay, so let's go to the key. At the kingdom level, throughout people's lives, without their lives, okay, throughout their lives, people do not give trouble between each other because they are like good neighbors and within visual and hearing range of each other, visiting, talking, and socializing with one another. So that's external. That's the kingdom external. In the internal side, there are no thoughts of contention, resentment, of ill will if within their minds. So their lives are in harmony and their minds are at peace and tranquil. This is to hold the oneness. Okay. So here's a very important matter for the different meanings of do not go back and forth with one another. Right. Okay. Let's go to part 3. Okay. Here it is. Okay. Let's make this smaller. Okay, here, oneness, okay. Let's make this a little bit smaller. Okay, that way. All right, okay. So there is a multi-level understanding of this phrase, okay? This is the last phrase. This is a very important phrase, okay? And it directly ties to the first phrase of this first section of this chapter. But anyway, so what's to not go back and forth line? Okay, so we talked about it already, okay? At the external level, or kingdom level, people do not visit trouble upon one another. That means that's the outer or external tranquility or ideal land. That's the Tao-centric living. Okay, so that's because that's external, right? I mean, you can say living is, but it's Tao-centric life. Okay, so that's. Then at the internal or personal level, people's minds have no thoughts of contention, ill will, or resentment. That's the inner or internal peace and ideal land. That's the Tao-centric mind. So you have the Tao-centric mind and with the Tao-centric living. Okay, so that's the oneness. Okay, all right. Okay, now then there's there are different dimensions you can look at it this way. I just did these 2. I did these 4. Okay, at the micro level, what's the micro level? Micro level is, you can say personal, individual level. People's minds do not go back and forth from the Tao-centric mind to the human-centric dualistic mind. Right? Remember the one extreme thought to the other extreme, right? One extreme emotion to the other extreme emotion, okay? That's the micro ideal land, okay? Or personal ideal land, okay? Or you can say internal, okay? Okay. Now, here's the macro level, okay? That's the meta level, okay? Macro means, all-encompassing, grand, the most universal, the greatest, okay, greatest, highest level, greatest, okay. So the people's spirits do not migrate from one life to another. That's the back and forth with one another. That's another way of saying, that's another metaphor. So it's at the spiritual level now. We're talking about the spiritual level, okay? All right, so, and here's what I mean, let's go deeper. This is very similar to the Buddhism, okay? What there is neither, so this is very important right here, okay? This is very important here, right here. There is neither coming nor going. That's the, okay, in Buddhist, that in Hinduism, Sanskrit, Tathagata. Now, Rurai, that's one of the titles of Buddha, okay? Because that's what he is. Because when you attain Buddhahood, there's neither coming nor going, okay? That is to become one with the absolute. The absolute is the Dharmadhatu, aka Jujing, okay, Dharmadhatu, okay, where one neither comes from anywhere, nor goes anywhere, okay? Now, if you recall, you read a story about Buddha, you know, before his parinirvana, okay, after he finished his lecture, his parinirvana sutra. Remember, Buddha was asked by his cousin Ananda, they had like a brief Q&A, because Buddha basically told, his disciples that after he finished, speaking the Parinirvana Sutra, Nieppan Jing, okay, speaking, he did that in a 24-hour period, okay, that he was going to depart this world. Okay, he's going to pass away, and so Ananda was very sad, because he really was a devoted disciple to Sakyamuni Buddha. So he was very sad. So he asked him a series of questions. Oh, he had a conversation. Okay, and so one of the questions Ananda asked Siddhartha asked Sakyamuni Buddha is that, oh, you said that you are going to enter nirvana, Ru Nieppan, okay, or Jing Nieppan, okay. So that time Ananda was still, relatively young. I mean, new, and he was only with the Buddha for about, I don't know, 25 years, less than 30 years, I think. Anyway, yeah, maybe 30 years, 30 something years. So he was still learning. And so he was wondering, oh, Buddha, cousin, when you enter nirvana, where are you going to be? Where is it? Where are you going? Where is it? Where are you going to go? And Buddha said this. Basically, he says, I'm neither going nor coming. So Ananda was very confused. Okay, so that's because Buddha, the Tathagata, he has entered this absolute realm where there's no here and there. No space-time, really, no space-time, where one neither comes from anywhere nor goes anywhere. Okay, and what this means is that is to permeate the entire cosmos and all phenomena as one. See, you get it? So everything is one. So that means you, the Earth, the Moon, the Sun, the Solar System, the Milky Way galaxy, Andromeda galaxy, all the trillions and trillions of galaxies. Trillions of galaxies and countless stars and planets, etc. They're all one. Yeah, they're one. They're all one. Okay. So, and it's obviously all sentient beings too. Okay. So there's no coming and going. Get it? So that's the oneness at the macro level, at the highest level. Okay. So that's what the macro ideal land is. Get it? Okay. So where to not go back and forth with one another is a reflection between the kingdom and the personal, the external and the internal, the tangible and intangible, the micro and the macro. So even though we're at the meta level, okay, you're at one, but you're also at the micro level, you're at one too, okay? So you have to, these two, all right? So this is called being at one with the Tao. That's the whole oneness, okay? So that's what it means, all right? So let's, since I'm taking up a little bit more time than I intended to, let's finish up. Oops, sorry, let's finish up. Okay, I want to finish up. Okay, but this is very important. That's a very important understanding. All right, okay, so here's the conclusion. So at the kingdom level, this ties back, so this one or this ideal land, okay, ties back, this oneness ties back to the first phrase where the ideal land is a small country with few people, where they are humble and living a life of simplicity. right? Where peace prevails because people have many weapons but do not use them. Okay, and then at the personal level, where people have no need to use their many mental and verbal weapons. At the eternal level, where all their thoughts are not contentious with one another, instead they are harmonious with one another, with each other, so their minds remain peaceful and tranquil. Okay, so the last 4 words tie back to the first 4 words. Okay, so at the physical level, okay, where this ideal land of Tao, people's lives are cherished, dignified, valued, and worthwhile. Okay, that's to have serious regard for death. So they have no need to move to any other place to seek refuge from strife and death. That's to migrate far away. And at the spiritual level, okay, is if we have the eternal life, that is to know, to have, and to live in accordance to the Tao, that's to have serious regard for death, then we will not remain in the karmic cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. That's samsara for so long. Okay, so at the kingdom level, okay, and it also means we neither go back and forth. Okay, right, back at the meta level, remember meta level, back and forth, so it ties. Okay, all right, so at the kingdom level, where people, although people have boats, where are we? Okay, here, okay, where people, although people have boats and chariots, which they can use for daily transportation, work, and entertainment, but since the small country is peaceful and safe, there's no need for people to use their boats and carriages to escape strife and death. And although people have armors and weapons in the ideal land, potential invaders know that people are well armed, so they will not dare to invade the land. Thus, the people have no need to display their armors and weapons. Okay, and on the personal level, okay, it's where although there are material attractions or distractions and fame, fortune, or power available in the small country, people do not have the need or desire to pursue them because they are happy and satisfied in living a Tao-centric life. And the people have no need for self-display, self-flaunting, or self-glorification with one another. Internally, what it means is that there are neither thoughts of pursuing material or physical attractions or distractions, both tangible or intangible, nor thoughts of pursuing fame, fortune, or power in the Tao-centric mind. That's the ideal land, the internal ideal land, I should say, and no display of self-glorification in one's mind. Externally, where letting people return to tying knots with ropes and using them is a metaphor for manifesting simplicity in every aspect of life and embracing the original, most natural state while being free from the influences of the material world. And at the internal level, where our bond with our Buddha nature between us and Tao cannot be broken, and we naturally manifest all Tao-like virtues. That's to reflect and use the Tao. The meta level, which is also the invisible and intangible golden link between us and the Tao. Okay, personal level, where contentment, oh, this is going to be long here. Okay, where contentment prevails in a life of humility and simplicity, which is one, to value the essence of Tao and its spiritual nourishment. That's to savor their food. 2, to manifest humility and hold simplicity in our thoughts, words, and conducts by reducing selfishness and desires. That's to admire their clothes. 3, being content to cultivate the Tao in the family and its virtues shall be abundant. That's content in their homes. 4, being happy and joyous in following simplicity, sincerity, and abiding in substance. That's happy in their customs. At the meta level, okay, where the Tao, one, produces, nurtures, and nourishes myriad things continuously, which all living things willingly accept. That's the nourishing mother. 2, Tao acts but does not flaunt, achieves everything naturally without contrivance, without taking credit, and without desires, which we readily admire and have with a great sense of awe and respect. And 3, Tao is the source of everything. It is the essence of everything. And to abide in it, the true home, is lasting contentment. And 4, the Tao permeates the cosmos, where everything is in accord, is in harmony and equilibrium with the principles of nature, which we happily and cheerfully follow, or we emulate, or we are aligned with. Okay, that's another way of saying. Okay, at the kingdom level, where not only is the country, that's the ideal land, within visual range of each other, neighboring kingdoms see each other, but also within hearing range of each other, the sounds of roosters and dogs can be heard. At the personal level, Okay, where although we live a simple and humble life, we still interact and help others like good neighbors. Meta level is where we live in an awakened life with an awareness of our Buddha nature while being aware of and vigilant, that is being on guard, watchful against not conforming with it. That is with our true master in our everyday interactions with other people. We also help other people to become awakened. Okay, kingdom level, where throughout their lives, people do not give trouble between each other, and internally, where there are no thoughts of contention, resentment, or ill will throughout their minds. So their lives are in harmony and the minds are at peace and tranquil. This is what externally, this is what an ideal land of Tao is. People living with dignity, humility, and simplicity where contentment prevails and lives are cherished, valued, and worthwhile. Internally, okay, the minds are minds with harmonious, peaceful, and tranquil thoughts. This is being a small kingdom with few people. That's the ideal land where people value the life of Tao, live in accordance with its principles, and have no fear of death. This is to hold the one or oneness. This is not to move around or not to migrate. Okay, I'm sorry it took about, 73 minutes. Okay, so I conclude, this is the conclusion of chapter 80. It's a very important chapter. It's because basically it's the culmination. You can say this is the end result or the culmination of applying all the principles that were brought about in previous chapters, that were talked about pre-chapters. So it's the next, it's like a semi-conclusion. It's basically a semi-conclusion. So then chapter 81 would be the last chapter. It's a little bit different. It's like a reminder of some other key principles that Lao Tzu wants to bring about. Now, so in a sense, we can say chapter 80 sort of is a culmination of all the many different concepts and ideas from the previous chapters, from the prior chapters throughout the day. And then you can say chapter 81 sort of ties chapter 80 and chapter 1 together. I mean, they kind of like ties the whole entire thing together, and with some couple key concepts that Lao Tzu find that it's worth repeating. Okay, all right. So we'll see what it is next week for chapter 81, and that'll be the conclusion of the class. Okay, so this concludes chapter 80, and I'd like to thank the grace. I like to ask for the Buddha's and Lao Tzu's understanding and guidance if I said anything incorrectly, and for people's guidance as well. Okay, thank you very much.